we keep going into their territory. So, you know, when you break into a stranger's house, you can't get mad if you get eaten. Greetings, royalty. My name is Olivia, and welcome back to my realm. It's been a little while since I have filmed a bookish video, and I thought today is the day to do my July reading wrap up. Now, I know it's very late in the month of August, but look, I have a very bad track record of getting these videos up as is. So if you're seeing this in the month of August, anytime before the end of August, we're doing good. So in July, I ended up reading 8 books, and a lot of them I already talked about when I did my HRCYED announcement video, which if you didn't watch that, go watch it right now. But it's the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do by QWERTY on YouTube, aka Stephanie. So I made amazing progress with the challenge. I'm over 10% done with it, even though it doesn't look right on Storygraph because I started on July 1st. So any books I read before July 7th, the official start date, isn't adding up in the counter. But enough talking about all that. I want to get to the books. So most of these, like I said, I've already talked about, but I did want to talk about them again briefly because I actually mentioned star reviews for most of them, and I think I had a bit of star inflation on a couple of them because I was on vacation during the time I was reading. So some of those got adjusted, and yeah, we've talked enough. You want to learn about these books I read. So the very first book I read was There Are Things I Can't Tell You by Edako Mofumofu, which is a gay romance between childhood friends who basically have this really angsty roller coaster. One of them is having an affair with an older woman. One of them is hiding the fact that he's gay from his family that is very, very homophobic. And it's basically them overcoming all those struggles and finding love together. It was my very first read of the month. It was my first 5-star, and I still feel like it's a wonderful read. It's something you should check out. I read it for the quote challenge, where we're tasked with taking a quote and finding books to make up every single word of the quote. And my quote is by Intozaki Shange. The next book I read really unlocked the childhood magical girl fanatic, shoujo romance fanatic in me, and that was In the Name of the Mermaid Princess, Book 1 by Yoshino Fumikawa, who wrote the story, with art by Miya Tashiro. Now, I didn't mention the first book was also a manga, a Japanese comic, and this one as well is a manga, aka Japanese comic. This one centers a princess who, you guessed it, is a secret mermaid in a world where people that exhibit magical abilities, especially mixed characteristics with different mystical beasts such as mermaids, unicorns, you name it, are discriminated against very heavily in society. And she happens to be the daughter of a man that's exiling these semi-human creatures, these magical beings from the country. So of course there can't be a mermaid princess who takes over that type of society, or can there be? I found this one very sweet. It was very girl power. It was very much finding yourself and finding your voice, which is why I love shoujo romance so much. I feel like this would have been on Colleen's channel, who I'll link down below. She's a manga tuber, manga reviewer, and she exclusively focuses on shoujo and josei / comics for women. And I feel like finding her channel reignited my love for shoujo, and reading this manga just solidified it. I gave it a 4.5 star. I originally think I gave it a 4.75, but I did knock it down a bit because it wasn't really pushing a 5-star read. It was just a really solid 4-star read. I also read this for HRCYED primarily for the prompt. It's basically a creature prompt where you do different magical creatures, and I picked this one for the mermaid prompt. Now, one thing before I continue, for HRCYED, all of the books can be doubled up, and secret prompt books can actually be tripled up. But I'm only going to talk about the one prompt I decided originally to read the book for. If you want to see all of the prompts each of these books ended up being used for, you can actually just go to my Storygraph and check it out there. At least I think you can. More on that in another follow-up video. Next up, we have River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey, the first book in the River of Teeth duet. Now, this book I actually listened to in audiobook format, and I got it from my library app, Libby. And so I don't have a physical copy of it. Well, actually, give me 1 second. And here's some kitty diabetes. before you go. After that cute break, I've realized that I actually do have a copy of it, but not like the one with the audiobook cover / Hippo cover from the first book. I actually have the collected anthology, American Hippo by Sarah Gailey, which includes River of Teeth, Taste of Marrow, which is the second book in the duet, and then 2 short stories that were exclusively published, I believe, in this anthology, but don't quote me on that. This one was an absolute mayhem, mind-boggling adventure. It's an alternative history in which hippos, or yes, you heard me right, hippos, are introduced into the Mississippi Delta to help with a meat shortage and also do some biodiversification and some other things. And basically, this actually did happen. Like, this was a bill that was proposed in the past in American society, and Sarah Gailey kind of mixes and mashes up a weird Western in which this bill becomes law, but more in the Wild West time. And this story is not a heist, mind you. It is an operation spearheaded by Winslow Houndstooth, who is an Englishman who came to America to live out his dream of being a hippo breeder. And from there, absolute chaos happens. He rounds up this ragtag team to basically banish the hippos from this little delta, this little enclave, where these wild hippos are basically causing mayhem. I think I've said mayhem a lot right now. I didn't know what to expect going into this. I just wanted a short audiobook because I was attempting a 24-hour reading challenge on vacation. Failed it. But I found a really cool read, and I cannot wait to read book 2. I ended up giving this originally a 4.75 star, sensing a trend here of ratings inflation, but I knocked it back down to a 4.25. It was a great adventure, but it was so wild, also queer. I loved it, but it wasn't like almost 5-star love. It was like, wow, I cannot believe that somehow this was not only a coherent story, but a story that was actually sort of addicting. Me forgetting what I used this book for during the HRCYED prompt. And going forward, all of my reading updates through now, July 2025, think that we're in the past right now, all the way up to July 2026 will actually in fact be HRCYED updates, because every book I read with minor exceptions, I try to squeeze into HRCYED, because otherwise there's no way I can finish the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. So for this book, I decided to do a prompt where it's basically you find different animals on the cover / feature prominently in the book. And for this one, I did wild animals because hippos are very wild and very dangerous wild animals, though we keep going into their territory. So, you know, when you break into a stranger's house, you can't get mad if you get eaten. Next up, we have what was a shoujo phenomenon. I found it on Crunchyroll, watched nearly all the first episode, and said, I think I actually need to read this manga before I binge the anime. And that's A Sign of Affection by Sue Morishita, who are a duo who write and draw this story. It is a used copy, as you can see. It came from a library, and I actually liked this one so much. I gave it originally, what do you think, a 4.75 that I knocked down to a 4.25 because I really liked it, but the characters, while sweet and interesting, didn't have enough depth yet for me to totally fall into obsessive love with them yet. And I say yet because I actually have volume 2 sitting on my shelf right now. So this story follows a deaf Japanese college student who enters university with a lot of excitement like any college student has, but with obvious barriers because she is deaf and can do a bit of lip reading, but mostly communicates through sign language. And what's really cool is that the authors / artists, the mangakas of this comic actually relied on experts of Japanese sign language to basically draw a lot of the hand movements you see in the manga. So I thought that was pretty cool. She ends up running into, by chance, a meet cute with this world traveler who also speaks multiple languages and becomes immersed in her world, Yuki's world, because he is very fascinated with this language he can't speak, as well as this girl that stirs his heart. It is very, very sweet. I can tell that I'm going to get addicted to the story, and so I am very, very excited to continue it someday. And by someday, I mean absolutely very soon. For this, I read this manga for a disability prompt. There's 5 disabilities that we have to read, or I'm not saying that correctly. There's 5 books about disabled heroes, heroines, protagonists, etc. That we have to read, and it has to be 5 different disabilities. And for this one, obviously, Yuki is deaf, and so she qualifies for that disability prompt. Next up, the perfect book to read in Hawaii, which I did. It is Dragonfruit by Makiia Lucier. I gave this a 5-star. It was my second 5-star of the month. It was an all-time banger month for reading for me. And this is a young adult, I would say almost, it's not a high fantasy in the traditional sense of like European castles and dragons, but it does feature dragons that swim in the water, and I consider it a high fantasy inspired by Polynesian culture and the Pacific Islander cultures. In this story, Hanalei is like a sort of noble woman on this island called Tamaran, where a certain kind of tattoo magic is well renowned. They have these kind of familiars that suddenly just pop up on their skin and can transform into living creatures, such as this bat that you see in the cover. And while this is not Hanalei's familiar, they have a very close relationship, her and Fatu. So Hanalei used to be this noble woman on Tamaran. She was basically the scribe of the acting queen because it's a matriarchal society. And Samatita, who is her lover, her boy toy, is the son of the queen. But because it's a matriarchal society, obviously Sam can't inherit the throne, and so he is destined to become, I believe they called it the protector or something to that effect of the island, who kind of like leads the military force. Now, the island is also known for spice trading, and so it gets visitors from all around the world. An island nation that is very heavily inspired by England. There's another island nation that's going in the waters, battling the dragons, the sea dragons, and also doing political machinations, and they are heavily inspired by Spain. So there is an undercurrent of a plot addressing colonialism and the fight to maintain independence, which was very, very kind of heartbreaking to read sitting in Hawaii, which we all know their last queen was deposed and Hawaii was taken over by the United States and forcibly made a state. The 50th state of the USA. Now, what was so cool about this story is that Hanalei, for reasons that aren't a spoiler, they're in the synopsis, but I don't want to say because I really do want you to read this story. Hanalei is basically, she has to flee her island and thinks that she can never return to it. She goes through a very, very rough time. It's just kind of really sad. Like, it actually did make me tear up a little bit hearing some of her struggles, but she, like a prodigal daughter, comes back home and helps her people understand that these sea dragons that they desperately want this fruit from, the dragon fruit that can grant wishes for a price, kind of like the monkey paw analogy. It is a dangerous thing. And even though they desperately want to save their queen for reasons, again, I'm not pointing out yet, she is saying, like, you know, you don't want to use the dragon fruit. And that's like a very base line of the plot. There is, in what is a relatively short, YA fantasy. I finished this in a day and a half, I believe. And I was listening to the audiobook primarily and also reading along for an immersive reading experience. This packed a lot of punch. I feel like I can still envision Tamaran in the Nomi Nomi Sea, which is where all the characters take place. Like, I cannot wait to creative journal in my reading journal all the sights and sounds of this world. Hanalei and Samatita were such a cute couple, and it was very YA. Like, you get a kiss. That's it. Like, and I liked, even though I can't really say the ending, but I felt the ending really did affirm not only a girl power message, but also that, you know, love is meant for us and that love conquers all, basically, and that we can grow as individuals and still find love and recognize that as teenagers, you still need more growing to do. And love is not the end all be all, but we still do need it. I don't know if I'm rambling too much now on this book, but I remember not talking a lot about it, other than the fact that it has one of the prettiest holographic effects I have ever seen on a cover, and I love me some iridescent, and so this book is chef's kiss all the way around. Oh, and I read it for the BIPOC prompt, aka Black, Indigenous, People of Color authors. Next up, we have Forgive Me Not by Mary Costa, which is a graphic novel arc advanced reader copy. Now, I struggled with this one because I originally gave it a 4-star, but because it was so predictable, I was like, maybe I should round it down to a 3.75. But I do think it's a 4-star read. It is a sapphic, high fantasy, young adult romance about a changeling who was switched at birth and grew up a princess of this human realm. And the rightful daughter, Forget Me Not, not Forgive Me Not, Forget Me Not, finds Aisling and basically drags her back to the Fae realm to basically right the wrong that was her being stolen from her life that she was supposed to live. It has very interesting Fae magic and kind of like the classes of them, and it was overall what it should be. But yeah, it was very interesting, very, very sweet. I love the ending. It was a fairy tale ending, and I do recommend it, and I do think I'm actually going to keep it at a 4-star. It's out in 2026, so I'm sorry for that, but I do recommend that you read it, especially if you have a young lesbian, bisexual, or sorry, my cats are like causing an earthquake, whatever kid that would really do to have a gay fairy tale to read. So Forgive Me Not, I read primarily for another spooky creature prompt similar to the Mermaid prompt, and this one was a Fae book. Up is a book I definitely didn't talk about, and that is Inherited by Elizabeth Acevedo, a visual poem. She is the author of the super famous The Poet X, which is like written in verse, I believe, and the art is by Andrea Pippins. So this one, I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I actually read it for her cat. I just read it in the month of July. And so, oh, Gabby's here to say hello. I did want to include it for the reading wrap up. I did get it from a local bookstore called The Shop in Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii. And yeah, it was a very interesting read, really talking about how Black people and people of color in general should not hate the features, the ethnic features they have. And in this one in particular, having curly hair, having kinky hair. It is signed by the author, which I thought was really cool because I got it discounted. And I thought the art was just like actually very visually stunning. It's simple, but pretty and engaging. And you know, I just love to see some Black girl magic, as well as just seeing brown girls also hyped up as well. And I'm sad to say, oh, it actually fell off as I was talking. I am sad to say that my little bear, my little Coquette charm, is on its last leg. So it looks like I'm going to have to switch mid talk to a new grip, as well as a charm for my Kobo. I'm kind of feeling the heart, but I'm also kind of feeling the wolf. That is a little more work though, because the back got messed up. So we're just going to do the heart. And we're going to do this charm, My Book Boyfriend Has Wings. But for now, let me just finish up the reading wrap up and then get those accessories back on. And this book was Volatile Memory, which was another arc. I had a very phenomenal month getting arc copies in July, which I read primarily for the prompt new release in July. Thank you so much, Tor Publishing Group, aka Tor.com, for giving me this book. And this book, I consider it a high-octane, sapphic, sci-fi adventure that is best described as relentless. It deals with corporation. It deals with cyberpunk in space, which I always find to be very interesting because so often cyberpunk is set on Earth and like a dystopian Earth. So it's very interesting to get a take, which was like a dystopian corporate-controlled space federation. Willa is a trans protagonist, and she is basically a scavenger, a really low class person in this society. In this society as well, people wear masks, which help enhance different features of human qualities. So she wears a rabbit mask, which is considered a prey mask, and those masks help people slip through the cracks, alerted to danger, you know, everything a scavenger would need to know when they're on dangerous missions. She encounters Hawk, who is a dead woman who has somehow, some way found herself trapped, her consciousness trapped in a super secret classified mask called Hawk. And from there goes down. It is such a fun ride. It is such a dark ride. It is such a questioning humanity ride. It really takes transhumanism and the play on words with transhumanism to heart, because it's a society where humans augment their bodies to transcend their humanity, but also a story about criminalization of bodies, especially trans people, for just being people, you know what I mean? And so I really like this take of a sapphic romance too, because it's more or less hinted at that Willa is asexual as well, which adds a different dynamic. Because let me just tell you, if Hawk had a body, that body would be moving. It would be moving. So I'm kind of interested to see how their relationship plays out as well, because spoiler alert, it ends on a, I actually didn't think it was a cliffhanger. I thought like you could naturally end the novella there, but apparently it's the first book in a duet. And so the story is going to continue, and I'm just interested to see how their relationship plays out. But yeah, this story is crazy. I did post a very long and thorough review of it, so I'll also link that below. It's like on every website, but I have the Storygraph one that you can go to just to make it easy, or Goodreads as well. And yeah, also Emily Bouchard, I think is the name of the narrator, and she did that thing. I think she really elevated the experience of listening to / reading, because I was doing another immersive reading thing of Volatile Memory. And let me tell you, 3 5-star reads in a single month, even adjusting for the vacation high inflation I was having on reviews, is still a banger reading month. It was that. Oh no, I didn't forget to tell you what this was for HRCYED this time. It was that I am actually finished with the 8 books that I read in July for my reading wrap up. I am so excited to just complete this challenge. I'm feeling good about completing it, even though it truly is the hardest reading challenge I'll ever do in my life. And I'm just excited to always find good and amazing reads to read. And for my August, basically TBR, I've actually already read 1 book for August, and will probably be on my way to finishing 2. So it's going to be more of my like HRCYED strategizing and picking out some books I really need to get to, because some HRCYED prompts are harder than others, and I have easier books to read for said prompts than others. So it'll be really me doing a mastermind of that, of at least 5 prompts, because I plan to read 8 books a month for the rest of the year. Like, that's always my goal, because I'm trying to hit 100 books, but I'm getting very close to my goal. And some months I've read like over 10 books, some months I've read less than 5, and so I've basically evened out. And so I am more focused on volume right now, because I'm essentially doing a mini TBR takedown before I do my actual TBR takedown in 2026. And I don't want to overwhelm myself with stress to find every single prompt for every single book for HRCYED. But at the end of the day, I also want to like be realistic about the fact that if I'm going to finish the challenge, which I really do want to do, I am going to have to get a little aggressive and not just do my, maybe I'll read 1 book this month, maybe I'll read 30 books. I've never read that much, but you get what I mean. I have to be a little bit more consistent. So I think planning out at least 5 prompts and then letting the wind take me where it will, since I am primarily a mood reader, is a good strategy. I have to rehab my Kobo, because it's looking very bare, as my very cute Coquette bear emotional support Kobo since 2024 comes up, and my bear is out of duty for a little bit until I can figure out how to fix the charm. But you know, you live and you learn. More bears popping up. But I am super, super excited to finish out this year strong. The books don't look as attractive right now, but I am going to put them back on the shelf and try to be a little bit more mindful about cleaning up. And I have just talked a little too long about personal things that are not July reading wrap up related. I hope you enjoyed this reading wrap up for 2025. If you did, I would love if you liked and commented down below what you read in July. Are you doing HRCYED? If you are, let's commiserate together. And if you want to stick around, you don't just want to be a distinguished guest on the channel, you made it this far, hit that subscribe button, join our royal ranks, and let's read some books. But until next time, royalty, farewell, bye.